Hey guys, welcome to this week's bonus episode. Today, what I've decided I wanted to do is I want to rank my top 10 cartoons of all time. Now, this is not going to include cartoons that I am currently watching or have not quite finished watching. So, for example, right now I'm still watching The Owl House, and so it will not be included on my top 10, even though judging by how great it is so far, it will definitely probably be in my top 10 once I finish it. I'm also not including in here any anime. I don't watch a lot of anime, but we're doing Western animation only for this video. So yeah, I thought this would be fun so that way I can kind of show y'all what kind of cartoons that I like and which ones I've already watched, so that whenever we decide what you guys want me to watch next, you'll kind of have an idea of what I've seen. Yeah, let's get to my top 10. So I tried to stay as spoiler-free as possible for this video, but I realized after putting it together that a couple of the clips I chose and some of my descriptions may be slightly spoilery. For the most part, I stuck to vague descriptions, but in case you are trying to go into any of these shows completely blind, I'll include the timestamps so that you can skip a certain section. Okay, here's the countdown for my top 10 favorite cartoons of all time. Number 10, Adventure Time. Adventure Time takes place in the distant, post-apocalyptic future. It's mainly about a human boy named Finn and his best friend Jake, who is a dog. They have a series of wacky adventures. Adventure Time is one that almost didn't make it on this list, but just squeaked in because it's really a great show. It has great characters, animation, and storylines, but I've watched it twice and I don't think I could tell you exactly what this show is about. However, I feel it has more staying power for me personally than some of the other shows I passed up. If I want to just throw on an episode of something, Adventure Time is a great show to do that with. Almost every episode is enjoyable and fun to watch. If you're binging it, the plot is fascinating too. And this is a show where I'm really enjoying the follow-up content, unlike certain other shows that miss this list. Number 9, Star vs. the Forces of Evil. This show is about Star Butterfly, a rambunctious girl from the magical land of Muni who is sent to Earth while she learns how to control her magic. As an exchange student, she is sent to live with Marco Diaz, a good, very normal Earth kid who likes karate and nachos. They quickly become best friends and together fight against evil forces who are trying to take Star's magic wand and destroy Muni. Meanwhile, Star has to figure out how Earth works and how to deal with everyday human life. The last few seasons get a little more complicated than that, but that's the gist. I only watched this show for the first time this past year, so I'm interested to see if it has the staying power to remain on this list. But while I was watching, I was obsessed. I understand a lot of the reasons that this show, especially the last season or two, was disliked, but I kind of enjoyed the ending, and I actually liked the love triangle in this show. I'm not necessarily someone who likes love triangles, but I do enjoy yearning, and this love triangle had the perfect amount of yearning for me. I also wish the writing had gone in a different direction towards the end, but I actually liked the ending the way it went. This is a show where I sobbed all the way through the last episode, and for a week or two afterwards, I couldn't even think about watching anything else because this show and these characters were still on my mind. Number 8, BoJack Horseman. BoJack Horseman tells the story of a former sitcom actor who is now struggling to stay relevant. BoJack struggles with fame, addiction, his past relationships with his mother and others, and grasping the concept that he has hurt people and continues to do so. Oh, also he's a horseman. And the show manages to be really funny. This is the only adult cartoon on this list. I'm not a huge fan of adult animation, with a few exceptions, but BoJack Horseman is one of the most amazing shows I've ever watched. Even though it was canceled before the crew wanted it to be, I think they did a great job wrapping up BoJack and everyone else's story in a way that made sense for their characters and was satisfying in a sad way. I feel BoJack did a good job dealing with a variety of serious topics while managing to be one of the most hilarious shows on television. At first I was hesitant about this show because the animal thing weirded me out, but having half the characters be animals added so many pun and joke opportunities, it was totally worth it. Number 7, Infinity Train. Infinity Train is an anthology series that takes place on a magic train that goes on forever. It's really hard to describe what this show is about without spoiling anything. If you haven't seen Infinity Train yet, please get a free HBO trial right now and watch it. It's 3 short seasons, with each season featuring different characters that are passengers on the train and their own standalone storyline, and every story is amazing. Each season is fantastic, but I love the first season the most because I really connected with a lot of aspects of Tulip's character. The concept of this show is very interesting, with each episode based around a different car on the train. Well, right now it's looking like the show has been canceled. I'm holding out hope that they'll bring it back for a 4th season. Number 6, Kipo and the Age of Wonderbeasts. Kipo and the Age of Wonderbeasts takes place many years after the apocalypse has occurred. Most humans live in burrows underground and stay off the surface, which is covered with mutated animals that the show calls mutes. It tells the story of a girl named Kipo who, during a mute attack on her burrow, finds herself on the surface for the first time in her life that she can remember. With the help of a girl who lives alone on the surface named Wolf, a boy named Benson, and Benson's best friend, a regenerating bug mute, she tries to find her way back to the burrow. Along the way, they encounter many mutes, and Kipo realizes mutes may not be as bad as she thought they were, with a few exceptions. As the story progresses, Kipo realizes that the surface world may not be the only mystery she needs to unlock. This show has good music, a good story, good characters, a good setting, fantastic representation, and maybe the best animation out of every show on this list in my opinion. And the soundtrack almost rivals Into the Spider-Verse as far as how great it is. The LGBTQ representation is pretty good here too. It's awesome to have a show where a character says, "I'm gay" out loud, and then also gets a boyfriend. I don't know what else you could want out of a show outside of everything Kipo gives you. Number 5, Gravity Falls. Gravity Falls is about 2 twins, Dipper and Mabel Pines, who are sent one summer to live with their great uncle Stan in the town of Gravity Falls. Dipper and Mabel quickly realize that Gravity Falls is a place where the myths and tall tales you may have heard about come to life. With the help of a journal that they found that chronicles the different creatures and oddities they may find, they aim to navigate this world and have a great summer. Meanwhile, in the background, something suspicious is happening with their grunkle Stan. I feel like I talk about this show all the time on this channel, so you know it was going to make it on this list. Gravity Falls was probably one of the first cartoons I watched in high school and was one of my introductions to watching cartoons as a teenager or adult. I rewatched this show recently and it really holds up. The characters are so interesting and unique, and the overall plot is amazing, as well as the one-off episodes. And in my opinion, it's one of those shows at the time that best stuck the landing, with the finale being perfect in almost every way. Number 4, Avatar: The Last Airbender. In case you didn't know, Avatar: The Last Airbender is the story of 4 nations corresponding with each element who once lived in harmony but fell into chaos when the Fire Nation decided to conquer the other 3. Aang is the next Avatar, master of all 4 elements, and meant to keep balance and harmony in the world. However, he's frozen in an iceberg for 100 years, which allows the Fire Nation to become powerful. With the help of some friends, Aang sets out to master the 4 elements and defeat the Fire Nation before it can take over the world. It's probably controversial that this was as low as number 4 on my list, but there's just a few shows I like a little better than Atla. But I do have to agree with the general consensus that this is one of the greatest animated shows of all time. It has almost everything I want out of an animated story and some of the most iconic characters that have ever been on television. This show may have invented the redemption arc, and the world building in it is exquisite. Number 3, Star Wars Rebels. Star Wars Rebels starts about 5 years before the events of A New Hope. It focuses on Ezra Bridger, a young orphan boy who is alone on the planet Lothal. Think Aladdin. One day, while trying to steal from the wrong people, he meets the crew of the Ghost, a rebel cell that is fighting against the Empire. One of the crew is a Jedi in hiding named Kanan Jarrus, who sees Ezra's potential to be strong in the Force and begins training him. Kanan, along with the rest of the Ghost crew, including ace pilot Harrison Dula, genocide victim Zeb Aurelius, Mandalorian outcast Sabine Wren, and a homicidal droid named Chopper, become Ezra's found family. This is a controversial opinion, but this one made my list while the Clone Wars didn't. I grew up watching the Star Wars movies, and until this past March, I couldn't make the leap to engaging with any of the other content. I felt the Clone Wars, with its number of seasons, it had 6 at the time, was too daunting an endeavor, so I just decided to start with Rebels. I quickly fell in love with the characters in this show and the story it told. It was my introduction to the Star Wars greater universe, and I've now watched every canon piece of Star Wars content on screen, and I've read several books. I will admit, I think a few of the arcs in the Clone Wars are better than most things in Rebels, but I think overall I enjoy Rebels more. It has a more through plotline, it focuses on select number of characters, and allows you to grow attached to them and really see their development, and it has some really amazing lore. Also, it introduced me to Thrawn, who is one of my favorite characters of all time. Number 2, She-Ra and the Princesses of Power. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power is a reboot of the 80s He-Man spin-off, She-Ra, Princess of Power. Rather to be a platform to sell toys like the original, S-Pop has a story to tell and characters to fall in love with. It tells the story of Adora, a girl who is raised by the evil Horde. She has been training all her life alongside her best friend Catra to become one of the best soldiers the Horde can offer. One day while exploring outside of the Horde's territory, she encounters a magical sword in the woods. There she also meets Glimmer and Bo, two members of the rebellion who fight against the Horde. She finds that when it comes to what the Horde was doing in the land of Etheria, not all was as it seems. And she also finds that only she can unlock powers the magical sword possesses. It allows her to become She-Ra. Adora then has to struggle to learn her new powers, to unlearn things the Horde has taught her, to rebuild the Princess Alliance, and to adjust to the new wedge that has been driven between her and her best friend. I love this show so much, both for the story that it tells and what it means to me personally. I think I've watched the finale episode, or at least a certain scene in the finale episode, more times than I could count, and I cry every time. I think this story also has some of the best character development and redemption arcs of all time. It's also just a lot of fun. The characters are really what makes the show, and I feel like I love almost all of them. And now we come to number 1 on the list, Over the Garden Wall. Over the Garden Wall is a story of two brothers who find themselves lost in the mysterious world of the unknown. While in the unknown, they encounter a suspicious woodsman, a grumpy bluebird, a town of pumpkin people, a talking horse, a sweet Puritan girl and her horrifying aunt, and many more characters. As they try to find their way home, they're being hunted by a shadowy figure called the Beast. This is without a doubt my favorite show of all time, cartoon or otherwise, and it would take a lot for any show to knock it out of its number 1 spot. I think the setting, the story, the characters, the animation, and everything else in this short story is perfect. It's amazing that in such a concise amount of time you can tell such a compelling story that will stick with you forever. I've probably watched this show 200 times over the past 6 years and I haven't gotten sick of it yet. I'm going to make a video very soon about this show by itself because I love it so much and I have a lot of things to say about it, so I don't want to get too far into my thoughts here because I'll save them for that video. And that concludes my list of my top 10 favorite cartoons of all time. I think it would be fun if I continue to update this list as I watch more cartoons. So maybe at the beginning of each year I'll have a new top 10 cartoons list. And I hope you enjoyed this video and got to see some of the cartoons that I am interested in. If you haven't checked out any of the cartoons that I mentioned, I would highly suggest all of them. I would love to see if you want to comment down below your top 10 lists for cartoons, and I will let you know if there's anything on there that I haven't seen. So I hope you enjoyed this, and thank you for watching!